You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello, wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you, and you are most welcome. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube, if that is how you are watching us. Please join in the chat, just keep it respectable, and smash the likes, subscribe if you're new, and click that notification bell. And if you are feeling ultra generous, for less than the cost of half a pint, and that's all it is, you can become a member. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? John is in. Hiya, John. How you doing? The little one is in. Ant, good evening, sir. How are you? Welcome along. And Luke is in as well. Hello there, Luke. Just sneaking in. I've got to say, we've got no Craig this evening. He is out getting pissed. Why he'd sooner do that than come on here and talk to us, I don't know, but, you know, there you go. That's Craig for you. But I've got to say, we are joined by Locks from Blue. I've tried it with my teeth in. Locks from Blue Tinted Glasses. It's a new Leicester channel. Be sure to put the link in the description below. If you're not following Locks or subscribe to his channel, get your arse over there and do it now. Be sure to subscribe to him. Locks is definitely on the Cooper outside of the fence. Kate, well, she's a woman, isn't she? She changes her mind. She's definitely on the shake it all about side. This could get very, very interesting. It's Let's Talk Leicester. We'll get the guys in after this. Locks, first of all, welcome along, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me on. Much appreciated. Glad to be here.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Doing well with your new channel. Tell us how. Well, tell people. I know how to find you. How can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, started it back in the summer, and yeah, look, we all love to just talk about Leicester, don't we? Whether it's talking about games or the players or the manager, which has been the case a lot this season. But yeah, Blue Tinted Glasses. Anybody wants to come and have a watch, then yeah, please feel free to do so.
Kate, hello. Are you still shaking it all about?
Always.
Would expect nothing less of you, if I'm honest. But what I'm going to do, look, I want to start because I know Locks has got to go. So I want to, we'll get onto this first of all, is I know, Kate, that you are not necessarily a Cooper out, but you just don't want change at the moment. We've got an international break coming up. We've got Manchester United next. Is this not, if we are going to make a decision, the best time to be doing that?
Yes, I suppose so, but I don't really feel that that's going to be on the cards. I think they're still going to persevere with Cooper and see what comes of it, really.
Yeah, I mean, Locks, did we not do that with Brendan?
Yeah, we did. To be fair, I'm a reasonable Cooper outer because, you know, after the recent back-to-back wins, you know, I laid off him a little bit, and you have to give credit where it's due. But I mean, I think it says there on the screen, papering over the cracks. I feel that is what has happened recently. I think we were fortunate to get both of those wins, and of course, you know, luck is a big part of football. You can't just say the manager has to go. The wins don't count because it was luck. I'm not saying that, but you know, if you look at everything, really, all the data. I know some people don't like data, but you know, some people are old school. But if you look at all the data, it would suggest that, you know, once we have played everybody once, so after 19 games, we probably will not be where we are right now. So,
I'll stick with you for this one, Locks. I mean, look, Enzo left. He's moved on. Love him or hate him, he got us promoted. You have to go for these jobs when they come along because you don't know, you know, if you stuck with Leicester, got relegated, although if you're Vincent Kompany, you still get a top job, but 9 times out of 10 you don't. Would we be do you think better or worse off if Enzo had stayed with his style?
I mean, it's a question that I've asked people so many times, and it's just impossible to answer, of course. I mean, you looked at Burnley last season, you look at Southampton this season, trying to play a certain way with, the quality of players when they're not up to scratch. But I think the slight difference is that I think our players are better than Burnley's were, and I think they are better than what Southampton's are. And I'm not saying that we'd be anywhere like top 10 or anything like that, but I do feel like we would be probably in a similar, if not slightly better position than we have. And I think we would have done better against, the teams like Everton. We didn't beat Everton. We haven't beaten Ipswich. I feel like we would have done better against them teams. So, maybe then against the, Spurs, for example, maybe we wouldn't have got a point there. But I just feel like overall we probably would have been in a much better position. And the players knew it. It was a bit of continuity, and he's doing well. I mean, I was one that thought he might flop at Chelsea. I didn't think he'd be, they'd be in the bottom half or anything like that. But I did think it would take longer for Chelsea to get going, but they seem to be getting there. And yeah, I can't answer the question, Chris, wholeheartedly. I can't say whether we would have been better, but I'd hope so. I'd have hoped.
You've not got a new job in Kemi Bodenek's bench, have you? Sitting on the fence. I mean, Kate, look, 10 points after 10 games. If we carry that on, it's 38 points. That's probably going to be enough to stay up.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I think a point a game will probably be enough. It was way more than enough last year. We just got to try and keep going as we are. But it was disappointing not to try and get the third win from 3 against Forest. That was really disappointing because I stick by my formula. Is if you win 3 on the bounce in the Premier League, you stay up. I genuinely think that's the formula. So I would like to see us be more front-footed and not wait until we've gone behind till we seem to click into action on that point. Yeah. But I think that's also a bit of an Enzo hangover. There was many times last year where we went behind and it was so difficult to get back with the style of play that we had. So yeah, a point a game's enough, I think. But we can't think about it like that. We've just got to try and take advantage of particularly of those people around us.
I mean, locks. All right. I mean, you look at Southampton, like you say, we were lucky, and you take the luck where you get it. Ipswich was disappointing, but it seems to be, and I can't blame Steve Cooper for this because it was the same under Brendan, it was the same under Enzo. When we're on top, and we were on top for that first 15 minutes against Ipswich, we don't take advantage, do we?
It's very worrying. I mean, we've not had I know everybody's saying this, we've not had a 90-minute performance, but even like a 70-minute, I mean, I don't think we've had one. I think, you look at some of the first game of the season, for example, Tottenham, we came out with a very good point, but I mean, we were battered. We should have been 2, 3, 4 down. And there's been a few games like that this season. I think the Bournemouth, again, I go back to look, but the Bournemouth game, the first win of the season, they should have probably, at least got a point from that with how much, how on top they were in the second half. But look, with the luck, I understand it. Teams need luck to a certain extent, and we had some of it in the title winning season. I know we deserved to win the league. I'm not saying we didn't, but we had a bit of luck along the way. But luck does run out. It does run out, and I think it will. And the 10 games we've played in the league, 4 of them, I believe, below us in the table. And I just worry. I mean, the game's coming up. Man United, not in order, but Man United, Chelsea, Man City's in there, Newcastle, Villa's in there again, I think, at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if we have, a couple points from maybe 1 point, maybe 1 or 2 points from the next 5 games. I think that's the worrying side. And I think if that was to happen, we would be in the bottom 3.
I mean, Ant says here, and I don't know when if he's going to the match or not, but Ant, if you're going on Saturday, you won't see the match because we're actually playing on Sunday. But don't let me correct you, Ant. Don't let me. If we're on Saturday, we could be 11th, lose, and we could be 17th. I mean, Kate, that is the worrying thing, isn't it? Because you look at Wolves. And you think, well, yes, fair play. Maybe they've had the toughest start of everybody, around us. But what's going to happen when we get to our tough start and they get the easier games.
As we said last year, you'd still rather have the points on the board, though, right? We said that so many times last year when we had an amazing out the blocks first half of the season and people were starting to catch us, and we did brick it. We can't lie, we did brick it. I would still always rather have the points on the board in that position, because not only because you're there and it's done and the points are there, but also mentally speaking, Wolves will have been hurt quite a lot with this start. It's not starting on a level playing field and it's the next 5 and you go in at even keel again. It's not a level playing field mentally. There'll be a feeling within the Wolves camp that they've fucked it a bit, really, quite frankly. There's that feeling that you can't shake. It's not starting afresh as such. That means that you might have some anomaly results. They might batter someone 4-0 out of nothing, because they're kind of, the feeling mentally going into a game is a bit different. But similarly, it wouldn't surprise me if Leicester pulled something out the bag that none of us see, because that's what we often tend to do.
Well, not just us though, Locks. I mean, we're talking predictions leagues before we started with Kate. And when you look at some of the results this season that there's been, I mean, would you have put Bournemouth down to beat Man City and Arsenal? There's
who would have Forest as third?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
That's what happens when you sack Steve Cooper and bring in a different manager.
That's what happens when you leave me to predict Forest coming bottom, because I don't rate them and I don't rate Nuno as a manager. But the other thing, though, Locks, is we haven't lost to a team that's round us at the moment.
That's true. I mean, we've spoken all season about the mini league. The bottom 5 teams or so. Of course, we would have wanted to have beaten Ipswich and Everton, but, at least we didn't lose. I understand that part of it, but I think it does go back to, again, what you've got on screen, papering over the cracks. And you kind of referenced Rodgers. That's exactly what happened before the World Cup. It's exactly what happened. We went on that run, and because before that run, it looked like he could get sacked quite early on. I don't think it would have happened, because I think, he had so much credit in the bank, but that's the worry for me, is, the lack of action that was taken that season, and whether that will be the case. I mean, I just seen somebody say in the chat, the start of 2025. Of course, if we pick up wins here and there and we stay around where we are now, then you almost can't sack him. You can't sack him, and I don't think the board would, because they'd probably be looked down on and thought, what are they doing sacking their manager when they're 15th, 16th? And they're safe if the season ended now. But again, papering over the cracks. I don't think we will be safe after 19 games. Once we've played everyone, I don't think we will be. But I've been wrong a lot of times before. So I think papering over the cracks is my biggest worry.
Yeah, haven't we all been wrong with Leicester? They never do what we expect of them. Kate, I mean, there's teams out there. I mean, if let's say we were to change the manager, and Ant says here, I'm not Cooper in, but it's not long term at all. But,
no, he says he is Cooper in.
Yeah, sorry, I am. Sorry, yeah, he is Cooper in, but it's not long term at all. But surely, do you not give Cooper the whole season, because he's come in with a different philosophy to Enzo, having to change it all around, and then suddenly you get another manager comes in, let's say January, and then they want to change everything. It's not helping, is it? Look, we've seen what Watford do.
Yeah, there's 2 ways to look at it, which I think is probably where the fan base gets quite polarised. There is the kind of what Locks has just said there, that with Enzo, he feels we'd probably be about the same, maybe a touch better. So why stop Cooper then? So that's one way of looking at it. And I think a lot of fans are looking at the style of play and the frustrating part. I completely get it. I'm not saying I don't feel that. No. A lot of people look at the style of play, the way we play, perhaps some of the body language of the players as well. Like I've spoken before about JJ, and I feel JJ looks exasperated, and I'm glad that he got given a rest at the weekend for his own mental reset, really. But then there's the other side, whereas in May, when we were winning and when we won, when we lifted the trophy, we were all saying, let's just finish 17th. We were all saying, is Enzo's football going to work in the Prem with these players? We'll just take 17th or above and we'll take it. And that's kind of the conflicting thing amongst the fan base, because that is what is happening. He's just not got a fancy looking Italian manager at the wheel. But people have to remember that it's all about the position. And that's what I think we have to focus on. But I totally understand if Cooper ticks along as he is, say, and gets another 10 points from the next 10 games, or 8 points or 7 points. It is all about the style, the performances, and the general feeling that you get amongst the team if they are actually fully engaged. Because if you've not got those kind of things, then you could argue there's a lot going on behind the scenes and all is not well. And you never got that impression with Enzo because everyone was bought in. But similarly, Enzo tried to fit square pegs in round holes on a continual basis, frustratingly at times.
Yes.
But because he got everybody's buy-in, we accepted it as fans. So we've just got to kind of, that's what I'm trying to keep realistic, is where do we realistically just want to finish? And if that comes ugly, I don't really care.
I mean, we're not ugly though, Locks. I mean, it seems to me Kate doesn't mind who's in charge as long as he's good looking and Italian. That's what,
you know what I mean, though? There's a certain,
that's what I gleaned from that. No, Kate, no, it's fine. It's fine. We will move on.
There is that side to it where it's not been pretty to watch. I think we all can argue that certain players are not playing to their strengths. We've not seen Ricardo as much as we have wanted to. There's lots of frustrations that we can pick at, isn't there? That's the thing. And if that then follows that, like Locke said, if we come to after Christmas and we're in the bottom three or really close to it and loads of people have caught us up, Wolves have caught us up, then there'll be questions to be asked at that point for sure.
Yeah. If you'd have been given 10 points, Locks, at the start of the season after 10 games, we'd have taken it, wouldn't we?
We would have. Well, especially if you said, 15th, 16th, we would have taken that. And I think, long term, and mentioned long term, that is, I think, a big worry as well, because, I know the priority is now is where we finish this season. It's not getting relegated down to the, the hands of the EFL who want to do unholy things to us, I think. But it's long term. I mean, how did they progress? How did Forest progress, in that second season? They didn't. And, the thing that is concerning a little bit is that the board, top, whoever it is, that there was a clear direction, since Puel, there was a clear direction of the type of football, the type of signings even that they wanted to make, what direction the football club should head in. And even as recent as the summer when Enzo left, I think Owen on Radio Leicester, he even reported something saying that the board were looking for a manager of a similar ilk to Enzo Maresca. That's not Steve Cooper. So, was it just they went all in on Potter, that fell through, and then they just settled for Cooper? I've seen other people say that maybe they chose Steve Cooper because of the championship experience in case we go down. And if that's the case, then that would suggest they're not going to sack him no matter what this season. They might just keep him for next. So there are a lot of worries. And I think, again, I think a lot of it does stem from, a few failures from board level recently as well. Maybe that's harsh, but I just feel like there is a bit of some mistakes that have been made, over the last few years, and they're still being made, in my opinion, at the top.
Okay, I mean, he's learning on the job, Cooper, because he came in. But the whole philosophy around the club has changed. If you'd said 2 or 3 years ago that, we're going to buy 3 30-odd-plus-year-old, players, you wouldn't have believed it. But he's gone for that sort of, what he says, experience, where Ipswich have gone more for this sort of young, championship players coming through. So it'll be interesting to see sort of, which team does the better at the end of the season. But is it, what we said, it's all about staying up. Cooper was offered a job at Burnley. The offer was on the table and he delayed them because he was talking to Leicester. And then apparently Burnley went back and said, look, we want you. Are you coming? And he was hanging on for the Leicester job. And so Burnley pulled out.
Okay. I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that. Well, he said when I went to the Q&A with him at the start of the season, he did say that he was absolutely throwing the kitchen sink at getting the job at Leicester. I mean, who wouldn't really? Because, you know, from an outsider, like, you've got great owners, you've got amazing facilities where you're practically working in a 5-star spa hotel every day.
Yeah.
You get to work with probably one of the few proper Premier League legends that's left in Jamie Vardy. I haven't heard a manager say that they haven't enjoyed working with him and he's been the best person in training. And you've got a real nice club family feel, which I think is hard come by. So you can understand why he hung on, really. That's not to say that I don't know if he was first choice or not, but he obviously took a punt. And for Steve, it paid off because he got the job.
Look, so he's come out and, like you say, he's gone. He doesn't want to be blamed for going down because the players weren't experienced enough. You know, even though he'd got 4 or 5 players and certainly one, we know Ricardo, that was experienced and he didn't pick. It does go
a lot
against.
of them are more experienced than him. A lot of them are more experienced in the Premier League than him.
No, that is very true. Is it a gamble on his part, do you think, doing that? I mean, look at Ayew. I've got to say, when we signed Ayew, I was like, what the... and it was only like a Crystal Palace fan that was sort of saying, like, give him time, he'll break up play, he'll go down when needed. And the first thing he did when he came on in his first game was go down. Edouard and Dakova Reed, I've still got to be convinced with. Got Jordan Ayew, I mean, he's the new GOAT, isn't he? But is that going to be, like I say, has he done the right thing in your eyes, going for those sort of players?
I mean, like with most windows, there's hits and misses. I think, Palace fans did say, they were gutted that Ayew was leaving. And they also said they didn't really care about Edouard leaving. And kind of that's come, we've seen it with our own eyes, why that might be the case. I think, Edouard was not in the matchday squad, was he on the weekend? And as soon as Daka's back, he's not going to be anywhere near the matchday squad. It will be Daka, you'd imagine. So, that one's a bit of a miss. But I mean, Jordan Ayew, again, I personally feel like the main concern from a lot of Leicester fans was the price tag. I mean, the headline was up to 8 million quid, which sounds, quite a lot for someone of his age. But I mean, he is going to turn, if he carries on how he is, he's going to turn into a cult hero. He will be one that I think he will be. I think
I'm just laughing because I love that.
That's 2 late goals that have bailed us out, and you can see why Steve Cooper seems to like to take an Ayew brother, one of them, to pretty much every club he's at. So he's been a massive positive. I think, I don't think I want to see him starting games. I think a lot of Leicester fans would probably say the same. I think, coming on, I think he can help us out in many ways coming off the bench. If we're leading a game and we need to see it out, I think he can do a job, and also coming on and making an impact to try and get a late goal, which we've seen now twice from him. So I'm really glad that we've got him, because he's a really important player. He's a really important player.
I'm guessing you're still talking about Ayew and not Edouard there.
No, not Edouard. No. The weird thing is, Rodgers tried to sign him a few years back, and obviously he went to Celtic. And there's a goal scorer in there, but it didn't go well at Palace. And from the short kind of bit of game time we've seen from him this season, it doesn't seem to be going. I've got to say,
Locks, there's a goal scorer in me, but he's old, fat, and couldn't hit the barn door with a banjo. But Kate, I mean, Ayew, like you say, I mean, I've had to sort of eat a lot of humble pie over him, but Locks made the good point. And I know Ayew's come out and said he doesn't want to be known as this super sub, but certain players are better when they come on and they've got a defined job to do, whether that is going for the win or holding on to what we've got. When he starts, though, because we've got Jamie Vardy, and, somebody's just said, well, Wayne, it's there, Cooper's using Vardy a lot more than Maresca did. There's less games in this league, so I think he can probably get away with it. And we saw with the cup game on Wednesday, Vardy was nowhere near the squad. So we know he's not going to be able to do 3 games in a week. But if he starts Ayew, you're not going to start Ayew and drop Vardy, are you? I mean, that would be like suicide. So he's having to start Ayew on the wing. Now, I know he can play on the wing. He's down as listed as that's one of his roles. but he's better, isn't he, just playing up front, straight down the middle?
Yeah, potentially. I think he can have a bit of free reign in certain areas, a bit like Buonanotte. Like he's got that experience, which I think players like Buonanotte haven't, because he's young and inexperienced. Is that Ayew just kind of has that knack that you get with years of knowing where to be. And against Ipswich, he just got that bang on within about a minute of coming on. Like he didn't have to figure out the pace of play or the areas that he needed to concentrate on. And fair play to Samare for doing the same kind of thing. He came on and it's like he played all game really. He had that awareness that you'd expect from someone who's been on the pitch a lot longer. So I think he loves to link up with Vardy, and I think you could probably give him a bit of free reign, to be honest. But he's been starting instead of Fatawu, hadn't he? And I think when we're against the tougher teams, maybe Liverpool at Anfield or at the Etihad or something, you could perhaps argue he may be a more sensible option, because Fatawu tends to give the ball away because he shoots on sight, which he does need to learn to tame. And again, that's youth. He'll score an absolute screamer because we've seen it. But similarly, 9 times out of 10, what happens is you end up losing the ball. And I don't think Ayew's doing that. So you've got to just pick and choose with experience and youth in equal measure when is the right time to try and play them against what opposition.
Locks, Ant says there, has Fatawu been better off the bench, though? I feel it's more timing of the game that we seem to finish games stronger than we finish. That's a good point. And Fatawu, I think we all expected Fatawu and Mavididi just to eat the Premiership up, because they were so good last season. But, I go back to Harvey Barnes when he was sort of breaking through. One season, everybody was going mad because, he shot and didn't pass, and, he didn't score, but he didn't play through to people that were available. The next season, he passed a lot. He was getting shouted at for not shooting. And it took him a while to mould into the player, obviously, that we then sold to Newcastle. Do you think that's the same case with Fatawu? Are we expecting too much too soon?
Yeah, he's 20 now, isn't he? And I think this is only his second season in like professional senior football. He was like still in the youth teams in Portugal before last season. So. And you can see how raw he is. I think he has developed quite a lot, under Enzo Maresca. And I know Enzo Maresca, used to drive him mad as well when he used to cut in a lot and try and bend one in the top corner. But as we saw a couple of times last season, he can put one in the top corner. So there's a lot of work to be done on him. It won't help a player like him switching managers. I think he needs maybe it's a shame, I don't want to say it, but maybe he does need like an Enzo Maresca type manager to try and develop him. But look, I think to answer the question about coming off the bench, that's been clear. He's been better all season coming off the bench and making an impact that way against tiring fullbacks. I think Southampton, tried to double up on him and he made them look silly. So it's a difficult one. Ayew's there for a job, and I think I know we call out for Fatawu to start, but if he does have a couple poor games, then the manager is well within his right to make that change and drop him out and bring Ayew in. So I haven't got a problem with that. I just think maybe then after a while he does deserve a chance. And after the Southampton game, he had to play. He had to play what he did to them, which is why he came in. But yeah, I wouldn't be against him being dropped, to be honest with you, to give somebody else a chance. Not at all.
Kate, is this where we are not giving Cooper the credit he deserves? Because, we're all shouting for Fatawu to start. And we're saying he's better off coming off the bench, which is how Cooper has actually been using him more often than not.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? We don't really know what goes on behind closed doors. And I think you have to switch it with each opposition. Like, I personally think Wilfred Ndidi is probably better used when we're away from home rather than at home. I think perhaps the same could be said for Ayew and Fatawu. It depends on the opposition, but that's kind of the benefit of having two quite different players that can play in that same position, is that it's down to the manager to do that. But yeah, that just sums up the fan base right there. They're screaming out for him to start, and then some are screaming out saying, no, bring him off the bench, he's an impact player. So which is it? And there's no right or wrong answer, because we all see different things. But I think that kind of sums up the manager's difficulty in picking the team, especially based on the opposition and whether being a home or away.
Yeah. I'm just watching the time lock, so I want to just come back to you quickly. We see there's regular changes, and in a way, Cooper is learning on the job this year, because literally he was thrown in just in pre-season, and he's still trying to find out his best 11. But should he? Two-point question: A, should he know his best starting 11 now after 10 games? And B, we've got every player fitted apparently for the Man United game. So does he now say, right, this is my best 11. This is the 11 I'm going to play, and start with them every game, barring obviously injuries or bans, and give them a chance to gel as a team?
Well, if you include the cup games and the friendlies, I think it's about 16 games now. So I would argue, I'm not a football manager. I will never be a football manager, and I don't know anything, really to that extent. I'm not paid to do that, but I would hope that after 16 games, you would have a good idea of what your best team is. I agree with you. It doesn't seem like he does. I mean, we didn't get Ricardo until game 9 in the Premier League. That's a madness, in my opinion. I know he's not lit the league alight in those last 2 games, but I think he deserved to have had a place in the team after last season. But yeah, I think it's I agree with what Kate's saying. It is Leicester fans it's football fans in a nutshell, saying that calling for Ayew to start, and then now we're kind of thinking, oh, maybe he should just come off the bench for the time being. And Cooper will have this, similar thoughts, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know, mate. I've got a good idea of what I think our best team is, and I think it's something similar to the last get to Ipswich. But the result would suggest otherwise, of course. So
yeah, I mean, Kate, a good point again by Locks. Ricardo not set the league alight in the last 2 games, but it's been 2 games. I mean, we've said this, haven't we, about Iheanacho, until he actually got a run because of injuries. We only saw him for 10, 15 minutes here. He's never going to get you a hat trick in those sort of games, or unlikely to. Again, if we're going to see the best out of Ricardo, surely we've got to put him in and stick with him.
Yeah, I think so. There needs to be an enormous amount of patience with fans and Cooper, really, because Ricardo's not played proper football since May, and that's nearly 6 months ago. Walsall, yeah, but I think he probably held back a bit there because probably didn't want to get injured, in the hope that he was hopefully going to make the first team at some point. So he's only played 2 real competitive, meaningful matches since May, which isn't very much at all. So yeah, I'd like to think that he perseveres with him, because he's persevered with JJ and Christensen enough to know what they're about now. And I think I agree with Locks, that was kind of pretty close to my starting 11. And I don't think we have to have a starting 11, but it'd be nice to have a 12 or 13 that we know, depending on system and opposition, what we're going to do.
Yes, no, totally. All right, Azan, I know you've got to go, Locks. I'm going to let you go, but last question before I do. I mean, for me, with Cooper, he's got to be given the whole season, because changing mid-term, we're just literally starting again. And I know there's a lot of this where we get a new manager bounce, etc. Is there a point? And we're going to be in a relegation battle, whether we like it or not. We know we're not going to be sort of, top 10 and away from it all. We're going to be down there. But then, you've got clubs that, like, say, Wolves, for example, that not many people would have thought would have been down there. West Ham are struggling, and they're possibly going to be changing the manager. Everton, we know what they're like. At what point during the season do you say, if we are still, let's say, in the bottom 3, then we have to do something desperately?
Well, it's made harder because of where we are. Again, papering over the cracks, in my opinion. But if we were in the bottom 3 now, the board may have chosen to act, in this international break. But again, because we're not in the bottom 3, they probably won't act. I think. Look, we sacked Ranieri in, what was it, February? And that was a big decision. And the whole footballing world looked down on our owners and thought, what are you doing? But it was, it was cutthroat. And in my opinion, some people still disagree. It was what was needed to stop us going down that season. I thought we were going down.
Yes, I agree. No, I agree.
Unfortunately, that never happened in the Rodgers season, in the last one. It never happened. There was, again, a lot of credit in the bank. I think that was the reason he stayed for as long as he did. And it ended in disaster. So I think, and I would hope, that the board have learned from that season, the relegation season, and if it is looking quite bad come, end of Jan, February time, I'd hope that they would act. And I get what you're saying. It would maybe cause a bit of chaos mid-season, but the worst thing that could happen is the teams around us or below us start sacking their managers. They start getting a bit of a bounce. They rise above us, and we're just left standing, sleepwalking, as we said a lot in that season, sleepwalking to the Championship. So that's my worry. So I would hope that they would act. Yeah.
And we've got, I think, like you said, alluded to earlier, we've got a lot more to lose if we go down this season because the EFL are waiting for us with the handcuffs, so to speak.
If we go down, I'd be surprised. Whatever they've got planned for us down there, if it is a hefty deduction or something like that, then or an embargo, because I'm assuming the EFL embargo is still in place. But just for the EFL, we could be in big trouble if we go down. So
exactly, Locks. Really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I do know you're going to go. Your link is in the description below, but just once more, just give people a shout as to where they can find you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's blue tinted glasses, daily videos and live streams and stuff like that. So come over if you're ever bored and you fancy a little watch or something. So
brilliant. Thanks very much, mate. All the best.
Thanks both. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Locks does have to go. Look, well, there you go. Look, as if by magic, Kate enlarges there. That was actually a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it might get a little bit fisticuffs, but it hasn't. I want to go back to Ipswich, and we did sort of touch on it in the review show last night, but we touched on all the games. That's the idea of the review show. I want to concentrate in this show on that game. Should we have beaten? I mean, all right, we came away with a point, and you could say away from home at a relegation rival, a team that we couldn't beat twice last year, a team that likes to score last minute goals. Look how many they got last season. We managed to do that to them. Is it a good point gained, or was it too lost?
From Harry Winks' interview, you're kind of looking at it as if they were very disappointed that we didn't win. I think when you're going into injury time, one goal down, you have to see it as a point won. I personally would have liked us to win. I think the feeling amongst the fans was it was perhaps a must win. But similarly, we didn't beat them last year under Enzo Ball.
No.
So without Enzo, which apparently is the end of the world, what did you expect to happen this year? So you just have to have that reality check sometimes that we didn't beat them last year, dodgy penalty decision or not at Portman Road. So it was always going to be tough. They're an attacking team when they want to be. And there was what was more frustrating, I think, which is where a lot of people wonder about the Cooper influence. But similarly, I worry about some of the player mentality is that 20 minutes into that game on Saturday, Yannick nearly messed up, didn't he? He nearly lost the ball. He lost the ball in his area and they got a shot off and it was okay. But there was that mix up and poor pass out to Yannick from Hermansen where he just fluffed his lines a little bit there. And that seemed to be the turning point for the rest of the first half that we just didn't recover from. And it was really concerning to see that when the pendulum of momentum swung to Ipswich, which it was always going to do, because that's football games in general, the pendulum swings from time to time, we couldn't wrestle it back. And I don't think that has to all lie at Cooper's door. That has to lie with players on the pitch because he's not got any influence whilst you're out there. So that's just more the concern to me. We couldn't wrestle that pendulum of momentum back. And until the red card, you could argue.
I want to come back and onto that Mads Vestergaard point. First of all, I just want to say, Ant says here, for him, the moment we touch 18th, he goes. He then follows that up, but hopefully we don't touch it. Bit of MC Hammer there, Ant? You can't touch that.
I do agree with Ant's comment earlier, actually, when he said about he's Cooper in, but just not for the long term. And I'm exactly in that same position. I will be quite surprised if he makes it to the end of the season, but similarly, I quite like him too, because it's painful changing manager.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, the realist in me says what manager is for the long term.
Yeah. You completely ruined my joke there.
Sorry.
You quit your job at Rent a Crowd, please. I said, I'll do it again just in case because you did miss it. Ant says the moment we touch 18th, he goes, and then he said, but hopefully we don't touch it. And I said, is that your MC Hammer? You can't touch that.
Oh.
It wasn't really worth doing again.
No, it wasn't. And if you've got to explain a joke, it's not necessarily funny.
I don't have to explain it to everybody, Kate.
I can hear it.
Let me go back, he says, moving on quickly, trying to dig himself out of a hole here. Let me go back to what you just said about Mads and Vestergaard. And it was quite funny because in the watch along, when Vestergaard I'm trying to say, I'm getting my games confused. He started, didn't he, Vestergaard? When he came on against Man United, everybody was sort of going like, yeah, Vestergaard is back, fantastic. I'm thinking like, hang on. It wasn't so long ago that he was the devil incarnate. But you said that Mads Vestergaard mix-up. But surely, if you pick your back defence and you pick your goalkeeper and stick to them week in, week out, as I say, barring red cards or yellow cards or injuries, then surely they're going to get to know each other, and those sort of things shouldn't happen.
What, like the Akoli fast error against Forest?
No, but you know what I mean. It's all,
what you're saying, but I'm saying it's not a foolproof formula, is it?
No, it's not. Nothing's foolproof in football. We know that.
In what Ayew, I said earlier, brings to the pitch in terms of experience, settling in, not needing a bedding in period, I think Yannick after last season is transformed, and he did just slot in pretty seamlessly. Of course, he's going to make the odd mistake. It was more, my focus was on that more because it nearly went wrong, but it didn't. He did recover, but it was more the fact that we lost momentum in the game as an 11 and didn't wrestle it back. It wasn't on Yannick to say, it just seemed to be that little moment seemed to devastate confidence and completely change play.
I mean, Ant says there we didn't deserve a point. I actually think we may well have done, because there was times when we started off better, but got one. Is that luck or is that fighting spirit? I mean, would we have got that point if they'd have had 11 players on the pitch? I know you can't say.
Probably not.
And like I said earlier, when we're not taking advantage when we are on top, then we're not. Have we played? Well, we have played 90 minutes of football, but just not in the same game. And surely that has got to be one of the main problems.
Yeah, but also you see it quite a lot that even in the relegation season, when you have hotspots during a game, you have to make it count. I couldn't give a shit about XG. You can have 10.10 XG if you want. I don't care. If you're not got any goals, you've not got any goals. And in that first 20 minutes, Mavadidi had an excellent chance. It was a reasonably difficult attempt, but he did have a really good chance. And we're not capitalising on good periods of play. That was the brightest we've started, I think, on Saturday for the first 20 minutes. We played some really, really nice stuff. And then, like I say, that dip moment seemed to transform the play for the next hour. And that, for me, doesn't necessarily lie with Cooper, because that means there aren't people on the pitch that are digging in hard enough to get us back in the game.
2 points here. Ant says Vestergaard is our best centre-back, which is a damning thing and shows how far we have dropped. Ray comes back and says Vestergaard is solid. We need him in most games. He cannot start. Vestergaard is solid. We need him in most games. He cannot start against Ollie Watkins, though, too fast. But then if you play a fast defender with him, does that negate that?
Yeah. That's what I would do. I think the most important thing about Yannick, which is different to Fass and Akoli, is Yannick knows his weaknesses. A bit like Wes and Huth used to do. They used to play within their limitations and keep it sensible, which is old school defending. These days, Woot is fast. And it's a good job he's fast because he finds himself on the centre circle way more than I'd like out of possession, and he has to sprint back. Yannick isn't doing that. Yannick doesn't go wandering. He knows his limitations. He knows what he's there to do. He's not there to take any glory. He's just there to do a steady job and keep it sensible.
I must admit, at one point against Ipswich, I was obviously doing the watch along, and we were our back line was on the halfway line, and I'm thinking like, oh my god, here we go again. And all right, it was Ipswich, so probably but if you're doing that against the likes of maybe Man City or Chelsea or something like that, we're in deep doo-doo, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, but again, Forest just did a hopeful lob up the top, and neither defender dealt with it for that third goal. Like, all defenders have mistakes in them, but I just feel that there's nothing you can do about Vestergaard's pace. I mean, that is a big concern.
Yeah, but it is what it is, isn't it?
It is what it is. I do think in every other area, including distribution,
of the bunch. His distribution is literally, in my mind, second to none.
Yeah,
it really is.
Cody seems to be, I don't deny that he's probably a leader. I think he's very vocal in the dressing room, but it's got to the point now where he's been idle for too long, and I just don't think he's sharp enough to just come into the Premier League.
Yes. It wasn't, with the sending off, and let's talk about that, and then I want to talk about the penalty, and then we'll sort of maybe have a look at the players. But they said on the stream I was watching that he was lucky to stay on for the first yellow card, and a lot of referees and VAR might have actually given that as a red. I know that the Ipswich have been complaining. And if you watched the show last night, we had an Ipswich fan on with a pre-record that was blaming the referee. And yes, we all know. I mean, it's the same referee for both, and I do know how they feel because we'll all have a go at the referee if we lose, don't we? We like to blame the ref, but that there was definitely 2 yellows, wasn't it?
Yeah, without doubt, and it was in fairly quick succession as well, wasn't it? And someone like that, he should just know better, really. He gave the ref no decision to make really there, but I do agree that the ref was poor, and when you've pissed off both sets of fans, you've had a shocker. It wasn't so much that he was poor in that I felt like he didn't give us a penalty or something like that. It was more that some of these referees that come on, the threshold for fouls is so unbelievably low. There is so many stoppages.
Yes.
And they are not wising up to the fact that, I mean, the only time I saw it was against Forest. The referee was really good. As soon as the Forest keeper delayed a kickoff, he booked him. He gave him one chance, and then the next time he booked him. That never happens. It's normally 15, 20 goal kicks and nothing's happening. He just waves his arm and that's about it. But this referee, the threshold was so low, the game couldn't get going, and it was just bonkers. That's what frustrates fans. And then Ipswich started to play silly buggers because they were 1-0 up, so players just sat down on the pitch because they wanted a little rub of the leg. Play didn't stop at one point for one of the Ipswich players, so instead he decided to hold his head. So then play will definitely stop.
Well, we've seen that, haven't we, all over that a player will hold his head.
Within football is there to exploit, and it's flipping frustrating for fans. It's a game that's supposed to be contact and continual. There's no timeouts in football, and we're getting more and more of it. So the ref was awful. I didn't enjoy it at all.
100%. I said on the watch along, I had a bit of a rant mid-second half about how bad he and his linesmen were. So yes, I agree. But some 9 times out of 10 they are bad for both. But I think these referees, 2 points there. I think the Premier League referees should go down and watch the Championship referees, because last season it was proper football. Tackles were going in, Players were going over. Let's be honest with you. You fart as you run past a player in the Premier League. He goes down. It's a free kick. And it wasn't like that last season. And they need to go and study that. And I still say that, every match is recorded for VAR, that it should be looked at afterwards. And if somebody's gone down and cheated, they get a retrospective yellow card. And when they add up and suddenly that player misses a game because he's got so many yellow cards, the managers will start to take bloody action.
Yeah, absolutely.
But penalty. Now, I find it quite ironic that Ipswich Town are screaming for a penalty. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? You do know where I'm going. I think I've seen you comment on it on Twitter. Last season, I think it was Jamie Vardy, wasn't it? Got sandwiched.
It was Dewsbury Hall.
Was it Dewsbury Hall? Right, sorry. Got sandwiched between two Ipswich players, and nothing was given. That said, I think if it had been the other end, I would have been screaming for the penalty. But look, you can't get away with it, one season, then scream about it the next season.
No, you can't, but you do. But yeah, for me, it would have been very, very soft. I mean, it was a hit of each other. And the same thing happened then with Samare when he's running down the wing for the goal. They hit each other. And Samare is just an absolute brute with superhero powers. So the guy just bounced off him like Mario or something. So it was the same kind of thing. It's a contact sport. I actually think you could argue that the Ipswich player ran into Fatawu. It's just that Fatawu was more steadfast on his feet. So didn't move. So the guy looked like he bounced off him, but there was no legs out. There was no arms flailing. It was two bodies that came together, and one guy goes down on the floor because it's his penalty box to go down in. So,
yeah. Look, you and me, we both write for the BBC. Keep up with me. Yeah, well done. bbc.co.uk /LCFC. This week it was my turn. That is Kate's new nickname, by the way, Miss Slash. You take that wherever you want to. Hello, Mrs. Blakey. I wrote this week's, as you know, and they do the headlines for us, but they've named it. We may have the midfield enforcer we desperately need. We have said for ages, haven't we, that we need a Roy Keane type player in there. Somebody that's going to stick the boot in. Hamza can do it to a degree, but fortunately, the rest of his play isn't always up to it. I don't want to get too excited because, look, we're fickle as football fans, aren't we? And if Samari starts against Man United and has a shit game, we'll be saying, what the bloody hell's he doing in the team? But I mean, that goal would not have happened if it wasn't for him.
No, not at all. And even for I think 5 or 10 minutes beforehand, he was putting himself about loads. Like 1 minute you see him on one wing and literally you'd look again 2 passes later and he's on the other side of the pitch. He had the bit between his teeth for sure on Saturday, which kind of was off the back of a Man United performance as well. I do feel he's a player that needs confidence breathing down his neck. I think Brendan had said previously that he had some time out because of some personal issues. So whether he's got some historical personal problems that impact him and maybe a confidence issue as well. But for me, I mean, I think Roy Keane might be a bit of an insult in comparison because Roy Keane tended to do things illegally, whereas Samare was taking people out legally. Like you couldn't.
You know where I was going.
No, I know, but you. There's nothing you can do with that type of stature of play. It was almost like peak Yaya Toure at times.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying that.
I would just love it to continue. Like it would feel like a brand new signing.
Look, we've done, and what I said, and please do go over to bbc.co.uk /LCFC every Tuesday. It's either Kate or me. We're writing. And as I put in, not all signings can fit into their new teams like slipping on an old comfy shoe. Some players, look, Fofana, he came here and it was like he'd been here for years and been in the Premier League for years. Other players do take a while to adapt. I always say Soyuncu was the better player for having a year sat behind Harry Maguire before he left. I think that did him the world of good and he was a better player for that. I'm hoping that is it with Soumare. I mean, he won the Ligue 1 with Lille, and to get past, that's a bit like Aston Villa winning the Premier League, really, isn't it? So we know there's a decent player in there. Does he start for you? Is it, let's say now we've got to look at maybe him and Winks as those midfield two?
I think that there's a massive argument for that. Yeah, because if we can get that Soumare to rock up most of the time, you can't pick Ndidi over him. You can't. He's so athletic and so fast, really good, better on the ball than I appreciated. Actually, I kind of thought he was a bit of an industrial Wilfred Ndidi type player where he'd just break the play down and get rid of it. But he was actually unbelievable with the ball. Like, it was beautiful to see, like running with the ball at pace. So yeah, he's given Cooper a bit of a headache. I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves, and I don't think Cooper will want to get ahead of himself, because it's taken so long to bring this type of performance out of him. I've read online and I've seen others that have said apparently he is always the best player in training, bar none. So it's just slowly catchy monkey, isn't it? He may come on for the half. He may come on a bit early. When did he come on? Like 70 minutes or something. He might come on 60. I just think we've got to be careful with him, because we don't want too much expectation on his shoulders if there's a personal issue there or a confidence issue. Because going to Old Trafford, starting, potentially getting spanked, but then that didn't affect his Ipswich performance after the Man U spanking the week before.
No. And I think it was one of those games, I think, where the scoreline wasn't particularly respective of the game itself. But look, we gave Enzo so much credit for finding the Danish, defensive genius.
History.
Yeah, if this was to work, and I'd love it to, because I think he could be that enforcer that we need, and allow, Winks to go out. Cooper's got to take some credit if that happens, hasn't he?
Absolutely, like a hell of a lot of credit, because Brendan couldn't do it and Enzo couldn't do it. We're not just talking like a 6-month period, we're talking like the best part of 3 years.
Yes.
And he's the only person to date that has been able to bring that player out, and his coaching staff, obviously.
Yes.
And it was so nice to see when we scored on Saturday that quite a few of the players ran over to him, not Ayew, to say, "It's this guy, lads. This guy did it." Brilliant.
Yes.
Like, they were so pleased for him.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that he feels like this may be coming into his time.
Yes. Now we're gonna disappear off the screen, because at the moment StreamYard does not allow me to upload or allow anybody, I don't think, to upload slideshows. So I'm having to do it as backdrops, which means that everything disappears off the screen. We came up with 2 teams, me and Brad, at the end of the watch along on Saturday. His team is very much what he would like. And if I say there's 2 up front, I don't think it will happen. And then mine is more of the 4-2-3-1 formation that pretty much we know Cooper will probably go to. But he did say, put it out there and see what people think about it. So just put that one up. There we go. You give us your opinion, Kate. So this is there you go. You're still there. I'm here. I'm just behind. Best I've looked for ages, really. Yeah, thank you. That's the team that Brad came up with. He's gone 3-5-2. Look, the goalkeeper, we know that's going to be Faze Vestergaard Okoli as a back 3, Fatou Buenete, Skip in the middle, Soumare Mavididi. And I know you'll be very disappointed there's no Ndidi in there. You did get upset when I sent you my team last week and I'd put Ndidi in. Vardy and Ayew together up front. I mean, as much as, we'd like to up front, it's probably not going to happen. But your thoughts on that team?
I mean, I can't get over not having Winks in the team.
Mm.
I can't get over that. I'm not against the formation at all. I'm not against the formation at all. I would just have Winks, I think, instead of Skip, because Winks is just class for me, and I think he links up with Vestergaard really well and can push through the middle. If you overload the midfield, it will probably give him a bit more space.
Right.
Interesting, obviously, a back three then doesn't leave room for Ricardo if you're going to be doing that. So that would be another thing. But there is flexibility within it, I guess. I mean, Buonanotte, you could argue, could be given flexibility. You've got El Canous that could also be subbed into that system fairly easily. You could even put Ricardo where Skip is. That wouldn't be the end of the world per se. He's got some flexibility in the middle for sure. And the way that we currently play at the moment, there is a massive disconnect, isn't there, between defence and attack. And that's where we're losing a lot of the games, or a lot of the play and possession, is the disconnect between the back and the front of the pitch, which is why Vardy, I think, has been able to play 90 minutes every game, because he's not getting any bloody service.
No. He has kind of sat down there in his on his little chair having a picnic, waiting for the ball to come to him. I mean,
you think of the activity that happened in the first 75 for Vardy versus the last 15.
Yes.
Because the link-up play between the front and the back, and the wingers in particular, improved massively. So I'm not against that formation. There's just some key.
Let me give you mine, as the actress said to the Archbishop, and then you can see and compare the two. So this is mine, which is more of the 4-2-3-1. I've got, obviously, to say the goalkeeper goes without saying. Ricardo, Vestergaard. I'd have Cody in, because I just think he's just got that experience, and it's a big match, Man United. You know, if it was Wolves, I might not have him. Well, I would have him in for Wolves, in fairness, because of his links. But and Christensen on the left. I've got Soumare and Skip, and I know you like Winks, and I wouldn't be against having Winks in there, to be honest with you. But I just think Skip sometimes he's played reasonably well. For me, I'd start with Fatawu and Mavididi, and either El Canous or Buonanotte in the middle behind Vardy.
Why did you put El Canous over Buonanotte?
I just think, and I'm going against everything I say about sticking with the same players all the time. And giving them, getting the team to gel. What has annoyed me about Buonanotte in the last couple of games is he wants to do it all himself. He's very, very selfish. Now, I likened it to when I lived in Burnley for a long time, and when I started to take my kids to watch football, obviously living in Burnley, I took them to watch Burnley. And they had a certain Paul Gascoigne playing for them. And the problem was that it didn't work, because Paul Gascoigne, although obviously his legs were getting older, his brain was sort of 2 or 3 moves ahead of most of the Burnley Championship-based players. And it just didn't work. And I think sometimes with Buonanotte, he tries to, against Ipswich, he went past 4 or 5 players, which was very nice. Mavididi was there, unmarked, screaming for the ball, and he takes the shot, which doesn't go in. All right, if he'd scored, we'd have said, bloody hell, he should be, in the Argentinian team, etc., etc. I just think he needs to be taken out and said, just calm things down. Remember, this is a team game. You can't do it all on your own. Was it the Man United game or what? Was it the game before where he cost us a goal? And then literally, it was almost like he was trying to make up for it all game.
It was the Forest game, that was, yeah.
Sorry, that was it, yeah. And you make up for it by playing as a team, and by if you've got another player that's in a good position, do it, because all these pot shots, and look, we've seen Winks do it as well. Winks was starting to take shots from the halfway line or whatever. Yes, we know he's got that in him and he can do it, but sometimes you've got to say, for fuck's sake, just play football. Stop, trying to score the wonder goals, Leave that to Fatawu. So that's why I dropped Buonanotte, purely on that. I think he needs to be taken aside and just say, guys, come on, lad, calm it down. Remember, it's a team sport.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that. Yeah, I do understand that. I just think he's our moment of absolute brilliance at times. I'm not saying El Canoes doesn't have that. I just haven't quite seen it yet, but he has improved every time I've seen him for sure, and he's excellent on the ball. Obvious points to make from that team is, again, I would prefer Winks to the reasons I've said before.
No, I get that. Yeah.
I think it's the punt starting Samare. It could go one of two ways, but I completely understand why you've done it, because we've done the same with Fatawu to reward him for his performance against Southampton. So you could argue that Cooper would think like that, and I don't think it would be opposed by many fans. The only thing that's obvious there is pace at the back. So you're going to have like Garnacho, Fernandez, and those type of players running at that central defence. And I'm not sure, as much as Cody and Vestergaard bring loads of strength, I think the one that overlaps is pace, and neither of them have got pace for me. So that's the only problem with that back line.
It is a point. Wayne, I'm not sure whether you're referring to Brad's or mine there, because I've only just come back to the comment. No, it is a very, very good point, but at what point do you say we need the experience over the fact that a player can run fast? We could put Mo Farah.
Trafford. I think you have to do that with those players that you've got. Otherwise, they'll just keep doing long balls and we're screwed. Experience.
Well, we are if we have a high defensive line. If we don't have that high defensive line, then we're not going to get caught out like that. Like I say, you could have Mo Farah in the back four. He's as fast as anything, but it doesn't mean that he's going to stop them scoring.
No, it doesn't. That's just. I think that's why we've never seen that pairing together.
Yeah.
And for Christensen, I think Christensen has had more leeway given to him than any other player in the team. A bit like Wilf, actually. Him and Wilf have been given a lot of leeway by Cooper. I thought on Saturday, VK was one of our weaker players, and against Forest as well, actually. I feel like he's very one-dimensional and almost reminds me a bit of Danny Simpson in the title-winning year, where Danny Simpson would get to the halfway line in possession and then pass it back because he just was frightened. He didn't want to lose the ball. He was frightened. And I think VK has the same thing.
I agree totally with that to a point. And it's frustrating for Christensen when he does that. But when he doesn't do it and he goes forward and actually gets the cross in, that's when he's at his best. And it was only a couple of games ago I was picking him as my, well, in fact, against Ipswich, I think I may well have had him as my man of the match. I can't remember. Who did I choose? I did choose him. Against Ipswich, I had him down as my man of the match. That's because he was, for me, from what I saw, was doing the more attacking rather than, and I've seen him do it in the past, turn around, come back with the ball and pass it back. Look, we're all managers. We'd all pick different teams. I know you're annoyed with me because I haven't put Ndidi in there, but
neither of you did, though, right? I thought Brad loved Ndidi.
No, you quite. I mean, look,
that's off his Christmas card list, isn't
it? I know he's trying to suck up to you now. I agree about Ndidi. Stats don't say everything. For me, Ndidi, okay, look, when he was at his best, he was a good stopper. He'd sit in there and he'd put his foot out and just stop somebody going past him. But he can't pass wind, and that's my problem with him. Is when he gets the ball, he has no bloody idea what to do with it. And
he hasn't got that instinct straight away. Like, you notice most forward players, and I include that in our own team. So whether it be Dewsbury Hall of yesteryear, whether it's Buonanot, Vardy, Ayew, Samare, Fatawu, even, you've even got other players on the bench, like attacking options, like Casey McAteer. Whenever they receive the ball, they already know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
They already know what their pass is. Wilf ain't got a clue. Wilf does not know at all where he's going to play that ball. Well, none of us do. He receives the ball and thinks, now I'll look, now I'll think, and then I'll pass. And the time's gone, the opportunity's passed. He's just not got that instinct of an attacking player for me.
Yeah. Tom says there, Kate's right, it's a punt putting Samari in. It is a punt putting Samari in, but if we're not careful, Samari's going to become the new Kelechi Iheanacho. is that we've got a player that's just coming on for half an hour game here, 20 minutes there, 10 minutes somewhere else, and we're never going to see him at his best, and he's never going to get a decent run. Give him a decent run, and if it doesn't work out, yes, yank him off. But these players have got to be given time. We saw with Kelechi, once he got a run in the game, in the league that season, he was our top scorer.
Yeah, potentially, but Nacho always had those sticking points that he always had, whether he had a run or not. He was still one of the most frustrating players on the eye. The thing is with Samare, I think there's underlying issues with him that you have to wrap him in cotton wool a little bit. And I know what you're saying. I think you gotta bite the bullet at some point and give these players a run. But I'm not sure it's just yet. We've only seen 2 great games from him so far. It's only 2, and it's at Old Trafford. Yeah. It's at Old Trafford. You don't want to be 3 down, and he feels like it's on him because he's made a couple of errors because of nerves. So it's a real balancing act when you've got this type of fixture.
He did all right against Old Trafford in the cup, though, when he came on.
We got spanked 5-2, Chris.
It's spanked. We had a bad 15 minutes.
That. I know it was a different thing, but we still got spanked 5-2. Whether or not people had good performances or not, the result still was the result.
But the result doesn't always say everything, does it? And I'm looking at the performance, and Samari did okay against.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but like my contradiction to that is it's just 2 games.
Yeah. No, I know. I am winding you up, obviously. Right, we're going to rush through this very quickly. I do like winding you up. We're going to rush through this. It's what I wake up for in the morning, It's just I thought that today I'll be able to wind Kate up. We're going to go through this very quickly this week because I'm conscious of the time. We're going to go through the player ratings against Ipswich. You were there, and we're going to compare it to whoever it is that writes Leicestershire Live. Jordan Blackwell, yes. And I know last week you didn't agree with him very much. I'm not going to read out his descriptions or anything like that because obviously that will delay it. So we'll get on with it. Mads Hermansen. What would you give Mads Hermansen?
7.
7. Okay. Got a 5 off Jordan.
What did he do wrong?
I'm going to have to read it now. Poor distribution and his chip passes out to the wings.
The frustrating part, which is what I don't get, which I don't know whether they just collectively decided to do it, is they just went for the long ball a lot. That was a bit odd.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I'd probably have to agree with yourself on that one. And nobody's stopping that goal. I don't care what anybody says.
But it was a brilliant finish.
It was okay, and he probably couldn't do that again if you paid him $1 million. I mean, it was a volley; it never even touched the ground. And I'm sorry, like I say, Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton, and Ray Clements all mixed into one. Ain't saving that. Ricardo,
6.
I've got a 5 off Jordan, so yeah, 5, 6. It's around there. Wout Faes.
6.
Again, you're agreeing with him this time. We got a 6. My man of the match, Yannick Vestergaard.
6.
That's what he got off Jordan. Yes, he made the mistake for me, but I don't know. He's just there. He's a calming influence, He
is calming. He is, and he calms Woot as well, which is quite important.
Yeah. And sometimes you'd think like, oh my God, what's going on? And he'll just stick his foot out.
Yeah.
His
legs are a mile long.
I know. He's like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah.
Like someone's going down the right wing and he's on the
penalty. Like size 18 feet or something as well.
Yeah. His leg goes out and
an arm, basically.
So he was my man of the match. I've got to say. I'm sorry, no, Christensen was. Sorry, Vestergaard was second man of the match. I would have had him second. Christensen.
6.
6. Again, you're agreeing with Jordan. I daren't ask you this. Wilfred Ndidi.
I can just never get past a 5 with Wilf.
You're giving him a 5?
He didn't do anything wrong per se, but he didn't do his job at times either.
He got a 4 off Jordan.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. Lovely through ball to Vardy in the opening stages, but was barely involved after that. He's usually good at stamping his mark on a game, but did so neither from an attacking nor defensive perspective.
This is the issue. I do feel he's caught. I don't necessarily think that's his fault. I think he's caught between.
Yes. I mean, I think
in the middle with you.
Please don't sing. For singing, you get 2.
Nil point.
Yeah, that was very much a Eurovision performance. Your boyfriend, Harry Winks.
6.
Yeah, 6. You're agreeing with Jordan. Mr. Fatawu.
6 again. I think this is very much a 6 performance from the team, really.
I think I'm getting that from you. I'm getting that vibe. That 6 vibe. But you're agreeing again with Jordan. He says he did say it was a tricky to assess performance. His dribbling and ball control in tight areas was exceptional at times, but it was very little in the way of good end product. Buenete.
Gosh, I think 6 again. Yeah.
I just put 6 down for the rest of the thing. Well, he got a 7 in fairness off Jordan. Okay. It was a joy to watch in the early stages, he says here. Steffi Mavadidi.
6. It's got to be a 6. I mean, he missed that chance. I know it was a tricky chance, but then he didn't really do loads apart from that. There was time actually where who was it? We broke with Buonanotte and Vardy, and it was just the 2 of them.
Just the 2 of you.
And I think Buonanotte passed it through to Vardy, but it wasn't in a good area where Vardy could do anything with it. But Mavadidi was just not breaking his neck to get there to support. Do you know what I mean? Like, that happens a lot. I don't know whether that's a fitness issue because he had just ran up the other end and it wasn't at the start of the game. But either he needs to book his fitness up because you see JJ just go up and down all game, or he needs to have more desire to get there because there's that's the disconnect between the back and the front in that there's a lot of times when it's just Vardy and Buonanotte and everyone else is casually jogging.
Yeah. Well, actually, Jordan gave him a 4.
Oh, okay.
Fluffed his lines for his early big chance, which he did. But look, again, it happens, doesn't it? But yes, he got a 4. Maybe it's time to start somebody else on the wing there. Maybe McAteer needs to be given a start.
Yeah, McAteer came on and looked bright, didn't he?
Yeah, I like McAteer, to be honest with you.
Jumping at the bit, ready to go, really.
Yes, indeed. I might as well just put you down for 6, mightn't I? Jamie Vardy.
Oh, 7, that touch. Stop it for the goal. That touch is so underrated. If that had been Bruno Fernandes or, I don't know, some Chelsea player, we'd never hear the end of it. There'd be a gif made of it already. That touch was sublime.
Totally agree. And there's a lot to be said for, like, with what Brad was saying about having the 2 up front, because they do seem to work well together.
Yeah, they do. I think it's because they're both intelligent footballers and it comes with age and experience, but also just natural nous. And they've both definitely got that. They're on the same wave there for sure.
Yes. That's what I say. People say to me, Chris, you're old. I say experienced.
Wisdom, very wise.
Wise, exactly. El Canoes, now on to the subs now. El Canoes.
I don't think he did loads, but nothing more. So I say 5.
No, you're agreeing with Jordan there. Stuck wide to the left to stretch it, switch at a time when it could have congested. McAteer?
I thought he got quite involved, actually. I'll give him a 6.
Well, 6.
Quite a bit, actually.
Yeah. Now, he got a 6 off Jordan. Like Samara, he brought energy to the team. He didn't have a great impact on the attack, but he did pick up decent positions. Now, Mr. Sumare.
Oh, you've got to give him an 8. He was just brilliant. He was just brilliant. He was the best player on the pitch for the whole of the 90 minutes. That 20-minute cameo, there was no one that strung 20 minutes together like that for the whole game apart from him.
No. Very good point. But you are looking, as I say, are we sort of got the blinkers on and we're looking at the goal moment, if you like, when he was involved.
Outside the goal moment, I thought he did excellently well. He massively put himself. He created chances. A lot of the chances and forward play was coming from him.
Yeah, well, he got a 7 off Jordan. Like I say, 7, 8. 8, 9. Pretty much there or thereabouts. Finally, Ayew.
7.
7. I mean, he had the chance before he scored.
Oh, that would have been so flipping good.
First touch, yes.
I mean, that was probably the only thing why he didn't score was because it was his very first touch.
Yes.
What a moment! It's almost identical, really. Like the same kind of finish was needed, and he just needed one touch, and he refined it for the next go. But what a moment!
It's like when you get into bed with your partner, you've got to have a bit of a warm up, haven't you? You can't just
preheat the oven before you stick in the turkey.
That is getting clipped. But indeed, you're quite right. He got an 8 off. Okay,
I get that as well. Yeah, but give it. Yeah, I suppose you could do that.
I'm not going anywhere near Goblin. Can I just say that? But your man of the match, therefore, was Sumare.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Kate, as always, thank you so very, very much for coming on. We've got Craig back next week. Thanks to Locks earlier. His link's in the description below, as is Kate. But Kate, give a shout out as to where people can find you.
I'm on Twitter at Kate Blakey40. So follow me on there. And I'm also doing the BBC fan voice thing with Chris every other week as well. So check out the BBC Sport Leicester page.
Next Tuesday, it will be yourself.
It will be, yeah.
Talking about
the glorious 1-0 win at Old Trafford.
Exactly. That's your prediction, is it?
Yeah, and then Vardy going up to Rude saying, I've still got the record, mate.
Yeah, oh God, yes. Yes.
Exactly, I've written it. It's happening, I've written it.
You are, you have. And of course, if anybody wants to see any old Kate videos, just go on to onthebuses.co.uk and you'll find her there. Thank you. I don't know why you keep coming on here, but thank you very, very, very much. Have a good week, and we'll speak on Saturday from Old Trafford. Sunday. I've turned into Ant, haven't I? Hang on, I am about to turn into Ant. Yes. Thanks very much. I'll speak on Sunday.
See you later.
Bye bye. So thanks very much there to Kate. As always, she knows her stuff, and do check her out every other week. She's writing for the BBC with myself, and she writes some very good things as well. Got a day off tomorrow, thank God. We're back on Thursday with the preview of the Manchester United game. Just trying to find a Manchester United fan to come on. We had got one, but she's just had her tonsils out. So there we go. Man United, are we playing them at the right time? They've just beaten us in the cup. You could say it was our B team, but would our A team have done any better? That is the question. Thanks so much, Wayne. Cheers very, very much indeed. Join us, 7:00. We'll get something. We'll be talking Man United with some Man United fan. Anyway, I live in Bournemouth. I'll probably go down the road and find one. Know what I mean? See what I did there? But thanks so much to Kate. Thanks very much to Locks. Really do appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. And please do subscribe if you're new. Smash the likes if you are new or not, because that really does help the channel. And say $1.99, link below. Become a member. It's so expensive to run these channels these days. Unbelievable. We appreciate everybody that presents. Is always appreciative of any help. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody, and I will see you Thursday. Cheers, Ray. I will see you on Thursday at 7 o'clock. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.